Good morning. Grab your coffee, grab your load boards, and we'll talk about what's going on in the freight market today, right after this. Stay tuned. Yes. Good morning. It is early. Let's see. Let's do this here. It is early. And I've been trying to go live a little bit early so I could be more consistent with my days because it seems like Wednesday or Friday I don't have enough time to go live. So it's 6:45. I appreciate the people that are coming in this early. Trying to get the algorithms back. So hit the thumbs up, watch the replay, put the video on your TV and leave the house and let it play. Get some watch time going here for me. I appreciate it. As you can see, I've got it kind of dark here because I like this ambience a little bit better, right? So ambience is important, right, for podcasts, whatever. Anyways, it's been interesting couple of weeks with the freight rates, and it's quite pleasant. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over the market conditions that CDN Freight Broker. Make sure you check out his channel. I don't think he's done anything in a while on there, but if he has, I'm not getting notifications. And but make sure you give him a shout out, and then also we'll look at the 1, 2, 3 load board, and we'll also look at DAT. I do not have access to Truck Stop, so we can't take a look at that, but we do have a few of their analytics, market condition stuff. So Red Lady, thank you for your membership. New member, awesome, thank you. There have been some, I've actually put up some member only content. I put up this new desk, this new monitor that Like Trucking so generously helps supply, and it's been kind of a game changer as far as like productivity and like I've got room up here now, which is kind of nice, so it feels more spacious. I still need to clear out a few of these things underneath the desk, but for the most part, I do experiment a little bit with the standing desk part. Every now and then, I will put it up, and it will do its thing. Yeah. Hey, Doug, what are you doing? Leave that cat alone. So, anyways, And then I've make sure you pay attention to Snorelord OG channel because that's non-trucking stuff. That's more of my music, more philosophy or whatever, theology. I don't know. Anyways, but I appreciate everybody that comes in. Trucking rates have been pretty good. I'm not fighting for I'm not losing loads over $50 to $100. Now, I will say this. Load cancellations are through the roof. And here's something that you have to be aware of, okay? So let's mark this time here. 5:45. So I'm getting a lot of loads where you wheel and deal. Whoops. You wheel and deal with the broker and you get your rate. And then you wait on the rate con. And then after about a half an hour, the broker says, hey, we gave this rate to our customer and they canceled the load. So what you have here is just because a load is posted on a load board, and the flatbed people already deal with this for most of their loads. It doesn't mean that the broker actually has the load. You see, some shippers, what they'll do is they'll put out a list of the loads that they have, and then brokers have access to these lists, and they put in their bid, and then they try to cover them for that. So, in other words, the broker tries to secure the truck first before they are able to secure the load. And if the shipper doesn't like the price, they do not give that broker that load. So there's a lot of that going on right now. I had a couple of loads cancel on me yesterday with those kind of conditions. And there was one where this guy got a really good rate, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, you got a really good rate for that. I wonder if this will, stick. And so he texts me, hey, look out for a rate con coming from blah, 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 blah. I see the email saying, okay, we've secured the, give me the driver info and I'll give you the rate con. Well, after about 20 minutes, no reply. And then finally the broker, so I had to say, hey, where are we at on this? And the broker was like, yeah, we gave our price to the broker or to the shipper. And they were like, nah, they canceled the load. Sorry, you don't have a load. And that happens. That's been happening a lot. And so just be prepared for that. Now, one of the other things I'm going to say, because I have a driver kind of struggling with this right now. If you work mainly nights, just know that you're dealing with overnight, after hour brokers. Okay. You're dealing with AI. There's one brokerage that I work with a lot. If you call their after hours number, you know what it does? It's an AI bot saying, hey, I'm an AI bot. I'm going to email your rep. And that's it. You can't get a hold of anybody. So if it's like 2 a.m, you need a lumper check, or if it's like 11 o'clock at night and the load cancels, or you need a pickup number, extremely more difficult to deal with that than, say, picking up a load at like 9 a.m. So there's we all know that trucking is not a perfect world. Like, it was like, oh man, if the truck will just go another 30 days without breaking down, or if I can just get 5 good loads this week, and I'll do it. Trucking has a habit of going, no, you ain't. it's that it happens all the time, right? Anytime I hear a driver say, man, I just need this truck to keep going for the next month and then I'll be okay. It's almost like the check engine lights hear that and they go, nah, I gave you 3 days. That was good enough. There's a meme where it shows that character from Dango Unchained, and he's sitting there holding up an engine light, and then it says me. I'm getting almost caught up on my bills, and it says PACCAR, and it's holding the engine like, haha, that that was kind of how it was owning a Kenworth, with the PACCAR. So you always got to prepare for that. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but you have to be a realist. I'm a realist, right? You know, I rain on Shannon's parade all the time. She'll call me, oh, I got this load, does it, da, da, da. I'm like, yeah, but this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, or this could happen. She's like, stop saying that. But things happen, right? So just be aware. I'm not telling you not to run nights. I'm not telling you, but just be aware that there's potential for more difficulty running nights, right? Yeah, traffic might be better. It might be easier to park, when you're shutting down at 9 a.m. in the morning. But the other trade-off is if you're dealing with a new broker, and the check calls get insane. The check calls have gotten insane. And every day I'm explaining to a driver, just because they have a tracking app on your phone doesn't mean that the tracking apps do not give them ETAs. So if you got a load that's scheduled to pick up open window 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., they want to know when you're going to get there. So the tracking app might tell them that you're 5 miles from the shipper, but they don't know your hours. They don't know how long you're going to hang out there. They don't know what your ETA is going to be. And so, yeah, some brokers get really pushy with that. Now, what I've noticed is that the brokers that use highway tend to not have as many of these issues. There was one broker I dealt with this last week that on the hour, every hour, they wanted an update. And they never, ever, ever keep the same email chain. And so you can't just hit reply all. If the driver's sitting at the truck stop, if the broker hits reply all, the driver can, I'll be there at 8 a.m. But they're not doing that. So there's 15 people on the email chain, and every single one does not know how to hit reply all. And so it could be overwhelming, especially if you're a driver that's dispatching yourself. Because if you're driving 600 miles a day, 700 miles a day, you can't sit there and stare at emails all day. And that's part of my role at Like Trucking has evolved to, is I kind of help the drivers do that a little bit. But communication is key, and a lot of brokers are just as bad, if not worse, than carriers. So I'm not bashing brokers, but I'm just saying that right hand is not talking to the left hand. Because what happens is these automated emails say, I need your driver's ETA and current location. Even though the tracking is on, they know the current location, but the right hand's not talking to the left hand. And so it could be kind of frustrating, overwhelming, especially if you've never dealt with that before. If you're new to the spot market, that's one of the games that you got to play. You always got to tell everybody where you're at. And tracking gets interrupted. Like MacroPoint is good about, or not MacroPoint, Trucker Tools tends to like shut down. And so you get these emails saying tracking has been interrupted, and you don't know if the broker's going to be like, yeah, we're going to rip $150 off this rate com because you interrupted tracking, when it could have been a signal issue. If you're traveling down I-80 in Wyoming there, you might lose signal every now and then. So, and then the brokers freak out because the tracking was interrupted. So because of the fraud, because of the bad players, we're all just kind of, nobody trusts anybody. And then there are brokers. This is the other thing that's kind of annoying. They'll tell you that your appointment's at 7 a.m. You show up at the customer and they're like, yeah, your appointment's not till 8:30. And so we had a driver call the broker back like, Oh yeah, we just say that so you guys get there early. Like the broker literally admitted that they lied to us because they don't trust us to get the load there on time. Convoy used to do that. Where's Convoy now? Right? And I get it. There's a lot of bad carriers out there. There's a lot of bad players out there. However, it's a give and take situation. So, let's see. My name is Nobody. Good morning. Chief Freight Hauler, good morning from Georgia. Red Lady, thank you for your membership. I appreciate you. Slept at a way station last night. Feel like I have extra eyes doing my pre-trip this morning. Probably do. I've done that. You watch Landman yet? No, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, Ghost Cat. I have seen bits and pieces like advertisements. It looks interesting, but I have not watched it. What streaming service is it on, or what channel is it on? TJ Bullywoods, top of the morning. What's up, man? I've got one that says when PACCAR owners gather, you can see the glow of the engine light from space. That's a good one. You should send that to me. That's funny. Charity, what's up? Good morning. Hope you're doing well. I haven't had that problem since allowing telematics tracking through Trucker Tools. That's interesting. But yeah, a tracking look. It gets annoying when you have 15 people asking where you're at, calling you at 3 a.m, and then they get upset when they can't get a hold of the driver. It's like, well, yeah, it's 3 a.m, and they drove until 11 o'clock at night. You're disrupting their break, right? So, but it does get annoying, and I understand. It's frustrating. I had a driver. He had some damaged freight, and it was with a Click and Go broker. He took pictures of it, notified the broker via the app and with a phone call. And then the next morning, I get a call. Yeah, we need to know the information from that damaged freight on load blah 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 blah. Now, I didn't think that I didn't know that the driver had already done that. So I'm like, so I text the driver, hey man, so and so wants to know what's going on with the freight. And he goes, okay, I'll call him again. So after 4 conversations with this broker that this driver had, they finally got the message of what happened. And he texts me and he goes, now I know why you sound ticked off all the time. It's like, and so it's even worse when you have a driver that doesn't communicate very well. And communication is key. It's probably one of the most important things. And I know it's redundant and overdone and everything else, but like I said, these shippers want to know where their freight is. Everybody's paranoid of cargo theft. Everybody's paranoid of double and triple brokering, and the fraud is through the roof. CDN showed me a list of emails that Truckstop has on their website that were all like phishing emails. What they do is they misspell one letter, or they use a 0 instead of an O. We had an email alert from a brokerage saying that, hey, we've been scammed, and they're using a 0 instead of an O. So make sure you're vigilant and make sure that you haven't booked a load with this fake brokerage. And then you got DAT. DAT has tightened up their security, but it still hasn't been enough. So you just gotta. It's a crazy world right now. It's a crazy world. So let's take a look. Let's share the screen. Let's start looking at some weather stuff here real quick. It's been pretty quiet, but I feel like it's going to get worse. But up here in New York, you got some winter weather going on. And then up here in these states, you got high wind. And then you've got red flag warning here. What's that? Kansas, of course, and then Colorado. But North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, parts of Wyoming and Montana, you're going to have high winds. So if you're light, just probably be shut down when those warnings are out. Let's see, what's this one? Is that wind advisory? It's hard to tell with these colors. Special weather statement. Well, what's the weather statement? Gusty wind. So, basically the upper Midwest is going to have wind issues. So just be aware of that. A lot of drivers want me to only book them light loads. Now, you have to remember that I used to own a truck. And so I know the pluses of having a light load. I know that feels better. You make better time. You make better fuel mileage. However, the last thing I want, if I'm in this brown area here with the high wind warnings, is a 5,000-pound load of empty soda cans. I want as much weight as possible. Your fuel mileage is going to suck. One time Jeff had me go pick up a trailer in Abilene, Texas. And so I bobtailed all the way to Abilene from Springfield. And my fuel mileage was like in the 7s because of wind. I thought, well, if I have that much headwind, I should have excellent tailwind coming back with the trailer, right? Nope. The wind turned around, and I got even worse fuel mileage going back. Like I burned so much fuel, and it was wide open. It was a bit of a struggle. At least it was a headwind, so it wasn't blowing me side to side. But still, it kind of sucked. But look, I get it. Light loads are easier to deal with. However, there are times when you need a heavy load to burn that DPF up a little bit, but you also be kind of a lifesaver. It gives you traction in slippery situations. Like I had a load of Coca-Cola one time, and I went through a little bit of an ice quick freeze that happened like that. And if I had been light, I would have been in the ditch because I was sitting there traveling. I was on 13 there in Missouri, heading south towards Springfield. And the temperature hit 31 degrees like that. And it's almost like all at once, everything flash froze. And 2 cars in front of me, one on one side and one in front of me, wiped out. And so I slowed down because I felt the truck feel funny a little bit at the same exact time I watched these cars. And so I get into the shoulder nice and easy, and my truck slid about 5 feet, and the rumble strips caught me. But had I been light, I probably would have jackknifed. Having that load of Coca-Cola saved my butt. And then it was like 10 miles an hour until I can get to a safe spot. And then I looked at once I was pulled over, I looked at the radar and thought, okay, we're going to be out of this here in like 10 minutes. I was able to drive out of it. But having that heavy load was a nice lifesaver. So don't discount the heavy loads, right? All right. So CDN says, at least your drivers communicate. It's so bad with many carriers. Between driver and dispatch, it's bad. I blame poor communication from dispatch as poor training by carrier. That's a good point. Let's see. Cornbread, good morning. Gary Cook, good morning. This time of year, nope, no light loads. Do you have broker problems if you book loads through like specific company load boards like Warner's Edge, Uber, JB Hunt? They all have issues, but the communication seems to be better if I'm able to use their own websites. Like I don't book a whole lot of JB Hunt or Werner. Uber is, my opinion about Uber is if you have a problem, it becomes a bit of a bear to reach somebody because you don't have a rep. Whereas like if I have an issue with an RXO or CH Robinson load, it's easy to get a hold of somebody. Like I have direct access to a person that knows my personality, knows our carrier traits. Like we had a load, we were on an RXO load yesterday, and the trailer got rejected. And it was one little thing that they didn't like, but instead of letting us fix it, they were like, nope, you're out. Go. And this is after the driver had burned 2 hours waiting in line. Like they should have inspected the trailer right there at the beginning. And some places do. Like I used to deliver or pick up at Post there in Battle Creek, Michigan, for Snyder. And the security guard, he came in, he actually got inside your trailer and he blew it out for you. And during that blowout, he would inspect it before I even go to the shipping office. That's how it should be, right? But anyways, so I sent the broker that I work with, I sent our rep pictures of the trailer to show that the customer was being a little bit excessive. But we didn't argue with the customer. We didn't put up a fit. We just left and apologized to the broker, and then I booked something else. So we lost the whole day for it, though. But there are advantages and disadvantages of the broker-specific load boards. The advantages is you can see details. Like C.H. Robinson, they give you the customer name. Uber gives you the customer name, gives you the location, gives you everything. And you can make decisions based off of that. But like what JB Hunt likes to do is you don't see the customers until you get to a certain level, like a reward system. And Werner, you just see times. You don't see customers or anything. And so like in Arrive Logistics, what I do with them is I look at their load board and then I G chat my guy saying, hey, who's the customer on this? He sends me a screenshot so I know who it is, and I can make decisions based off of that. So, but you know, that happened to my wife and I last week coming back from Arizona visiting her family between Grants and Gallup. It was a mess, I bet. Poor communication by drivers is poor training by the carrier. Even if an owner operator with 5 years experience, they are representing the carrier brand. Carriers train drivers accordingly. And that's what we try to do. But training is a difficult task. I used to be a trainer too. So it's the driver has to want to communicate. It has to be ingrained. So we got drivers that, like Shannon, she's really good at communication. She will give ETA, she'll arrival, and then once she's loaded, she'll send pictures of the BOL. And then when she gets to the ETA to the receiver, and then she'll upload the POD just like that. We have one driver that does that, plus we have two drivers that does that and also lets the broker know via email that where they're shutting down for the night and what the ETA for the next morning is. So even on a multi-day run, it'll be like, okay, I'm shutting down in Gallup, New Mexico for my 10-hour break. ETA is still Phoenix, blah, 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 so. And the drivers that communicate the best tend to do best in the revenue. There is a direct correlation there because they are taking their job a lot more seriously than the driver. It's like, okay, I'll email the broker, gosh, and every company has those, right? But we do have a good group of people here at Like Trucking. So Orion, you're on one of your old accounts. I wonder who Cornbread was. It's an old Hotmail account. It goes back to late night. What happened to your other account, dude? Solution create different SOP for different situations. Mechanical delay, weather, etc. Dispatcher and driver take 3 to 5 minutes. Review delivery times versus logbook. James G, good morning. Training never stops. You're right. Carriers on board a driver, and that's where training stops. It needs to be continuous. Someone on one, some group Zoom calls on our carrier, some weekly messages. We do that. We try to do that. SST, what's up with the eyeballs? So, anyways, a lot of weather, not too bad. Southeast is, well, it's just going down here in Florida. Freeze watch. Ooh, look at that. Florida's like, ooh, it's cold. It's going to be 34 degrees. So that's like 10 below to them. All right. So let's look at market conditions from CDN and its generous freight report. All right. Here's your overall market. Van market is still loose, but I noticed the needle dropped a little bit from last week, which is natural because, January progressively will get a little bit slower, and then spring freight should start coming up in February. However, there's something at the bottom of this report that's going to kind of give us a little bit more hope, right? You're right. There are going to have iguanas falling from the trees. CDN says, Steve, I know you and Jeff are doing the right things. I'm venting about the other 99% of carriers. Vent away, my friend. Vent away. And look, here's the thing. The better customer service a carrier can show the broker or to the direct shipper, the more leverage it gives you against your competition. And look, one of the things that's always said in this space, okay? Well, if you don't want to deal with brokers, get direct shippers. Here's the challenge of that. If you have a crappy attitude giving the broker customer service, if you were to do that to a shipper, they will drop you like a hot rock. The amount of smoozing and great communication and sir, yes, sir, and how high do you need me to jump that happens when you have a direct shipper, it's through the roof. If you hate dealing with brokers, then what if you get a contract with a shipper, direct shipper, and they tell you, guess what? We have an extra load. You need to cover it or you will lose it. What are you going to do? If you're going to tell them, well, or something simple as scanning paperwork. If the shipper goes, hey, we need this paperwork scanned better, you're going to go, well, figure it out. Are you going to say that? No. I mean, you can, but see, it's not so easy to get direct shippers, which is why brokers exist. Okay. That's number one. Number two, if you can't give good customer service in one area, how are you supposed to give it to another? You think that there's this magical direct shipper that's going to yeah, don't worry about the paperwork scanning. Yeah, don't worry about your attitude at the dock. Yeah, go ahead and crash into that park trailer that's next to you. Yeah, you'll be fine. Here's 100 loads at $5 a mile for long miles. Just, you don't have to do anything for it. Just go, be free, frolic. No, they're not going to be like that. If you sit there and gripe about your tracking apps and the shipper, the direct shipper that you just scored because you're awesome, says, hey, we want direct access to your phone. What are you going to say? No, I don't need this $5 a mile because I don't use tracking apps. You going to do that? No. I mean, if you can, but you won't get much. You won't get far in this business. So customer service is important, whether you're dealing with brokers, direct shippers, or the DOT. If you have an attitude with the DOT officer, guess what? Hey, that fifth wheel looks like it's got a little bit too much grease. Shing. right? And they'll do that. You catch a DOT. I caught a DOT cop on the wrong day. I was hauling a hazmat load as a company driver, and I was going through Ohio. Of course, Ohio you have to go through, whether you get a green light or not. And the dude asked me a question, and I was like, I don't know. And he had a little bit of an attitude with me. And if I had given him an attitude back, I was getting pulled around the back. But I didn't. I was like, sir, yes, sir. What do you need? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I misunderstood what you asked me. He goes, all right, go ahead, driver. Like he was just looking for a fight, and I didn't give it to him. Did it suck? Did I have to swallow some pride? Yeah. But you know what? I wasn't being DOT'd with one of our older trailers that had a hazmat load on, so there's that. I guarantee you probably would have found something. You know, it's funny. When I was at Landstar, I would be passed by a lot of them, other Landstar trucks, but a lot of hazmat trucks pass me, and I could find violations just in the amount of time it takes for them to pass me. Oh, there's 3 violations. They don't have this, they don't have that, and I didn't see this, you know? And so having a hazmat placard on your trailer it's a target on your back. And so you have to show courtesy. You have to show customer service, right? Because that's what the job requires. See, Cheap Freight Hauler says annual nursery meeting on the 26th. Y'all can have that Georgia spot freight once nursery season starts. Good deal. Thanks. Cheap Freight Hauler has a plan and stick to it. Get out of his way, right? James, I work with the direct shipper. They have requested I use an app to track their load and capture delivery signature on the app. Good deal. CDN started nursery in 2020, amounted to 53.47% of my gross revenue last year. Nice. Steve, if I handed, say, 5 direct customers to 10 different carriers, I bet after 6 months, only one carrier will still have those 5 customers. Many carriers are excellent at trucking, but not sales service. And I did a YouTube short not too long ago talking about that, like the 3 things that will make you a successful owner operator. And, you know, and what a lot of people look, when I became an owner operator, I got humbled pretty quickly. I suddenly went from knowing a few things to, you don't know squat. Wish I had the echo thing like Sterling did. And my dog was grunting. I was like, what's wrong with you, dude? And it's a very humbling experience. I've been dealing with some humbling experiences here lately. I'm not as cool as I think I am, which is good. I need to be beaten down a few times. And the trucking is no different. Like, look, I give you guys these charts. I give you my perception. I give you my experience, but it doesn't mean I know everything. It doesn't mean I don't get anything wrong. I get a lot of things wrong. Take everything I say from the heavy metal intro to the heavy metal outro with a grain of salt. Do your research. All I know is my experience is the drivers here at Like Trucking, the ones that communication is good, they take pride in their work, and don't complain a whole lot. They're the ones making the most money. It's that simple. When I was at Schneider, all of us were equal. All of us. Especially if you had, I didn't have a Snyder Finance truck, but the Snyder Finance guys, they're all equal. Same truck, same living area, same freight pool. One would be barely keeping their head above water, and the other one would be like, this is easy. What's the difference? If they got everything equal playing field, what's the difference? The driver himself, not itself. So, like, you remember back in the like late '80s, there was the IROC NASCAR series, and they put them all in Camaros. That the cars were all spec'd the same, so it truly tested the actual driving skills of the NASCAR driver. That's what it's like at Schneider National as an owner operator, especially if you're in the Schneider Finance world. Now, I had a little bit of an advantage because I didn't have a Schneider Finance truck, but I still had a good truck that was good to go. And that gave me the leverage over the other drivers. But there were multiple times I'd be at an OC, people would recognize me from YouTube, and one person would be like, "Oh man, this sucks over here. I'm having such a hard time, and oh man, I don't know what I'm doing." Da 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 da. Then another guy's, "Oh, I love it here. It's so easy. I'm gonna retire here." you know, and it's the mentality. It's the mentality that's the difference. You know, so. And a lot of that is humbling yourself. I had guys like, "Oh, I drove for 20 years and finally decided to do this owner operator thing, and I got my butt handed to me." Well, yeah, that's how it should be. So imagine like these lease operators hadn't even been driving a year. You know what they're going through. You broke your arm, Orion? Chief Freight Hauler says CDN, great job. You created a business plan. It paid off. Excellent job. Keep it up. Orion says, I was unloading the UTVs out of the toter home and face planted hard about 6 feet up, causing an earthquake. Loud pop, break my left arm. Ouch, dude. Is that why your YouTube account's all weird? I'm crushing St. Louis market 1,800 a day on 389 miles. Look, as soon as I get to this freight report, I'm going to go with the load boards, and I'm going to show you the abundance that we have right now. You know what? Well, let me scroll here. So we're at vans at 238 a mile, flatbeds at 260 a mile, and reefers at 288 a mile. That's according to DAT. Now, total spot loads, this is kind of cool. This is off a truck stop. This orange line here is way down here. That was last year, which was against the norm, which this black line is the 5-year average. But we're way up here, so that's good. That's good. There's your regional spot rates, which, yeah, mixed bag. Van is sitting at, I already mentioned that. Let's see. Outbound tender reject is overall is 10%. Van is 9.62%. Flatbed is 11.5%, and reefer is 18.5%. So that's good. Now, I'm not going to get into all this, but I will get into this market summary. And then we're going to go to low boards because I want you guys to see what we're getting here. The domestic truckload sector enters 2026 with capacity tightening amid ongoing regulatory enforcement and modest demand stabilization. Federal authorities have intensified scrutiny of state CDL programs, withholding significant highway funding from non-compliant states and threatening further penalties or program decertification. This aggressive stance signals that states must align with federal standards for driver credentialing, particularly non-domiciled licenses, or face escalating consequences. An area to watch in the coming days is the Supreme Court's anticipated ruling on the legality of the tariffs, which could significantly influence a freight market already experiencing capacity contraction amid heightened scrutiny of driver credentials and reduced tolerance for compliance lapses. Who writes this? A decision declaring the tariffs unlawful could trigger a supply chain boom as shippers accelerate orders to front load imports before the White House implements any ancillary measures or alternative authorities. I will go up to one thing up here. The state of North Carolina may lose $50 million in federal funds due to issuing driver's license to people illegally, as well as have its CDL issuing authority revoked altogether. Federal officials reported that 54% of North Carolina's non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses were issued illegally. 54%. We should be riding the streets for that, but we're not. The state of Tennessee has notified thousands of CDL holders that they must provide proof of citizenship or lawful presence in the United States in order to ensure compliance with federal licensing requirements. Approximately 8,800 CDL holders are affected. So the government's not messing around. And that's going to help things. Chief Freight says, I had another direct shipper that I was running a certain lane for. Got a call about 6 p.m. one evening that another carrier couldn't deliver a short load. They do. I was told, need you now. This is what I pay. Kind of got the feeling if I didn't go, my normal lanes were in jeopardy. I bet. All right, so let's look at outbound, inbound, outbound on DAT, and then we'll go to 1, 2, 3 low board. So let's refresh this. Arkansas has been a secret hotspot on van. 659 going in and 1175 out. Within a 100-mile radius of Memphis yesterday, or West Memphis, there was 900 loads going anywhere. I'm gonna say something here first. Tennessee, because we share, Memphis shares Arkansas and Tennessee. 1,677 going in and 1,758 out. Memphis is a great market right now. Missouri's got 1137 in, 1945 out. A lot of states are 4-digit numbers right now. Kentucky, 981 in, 1243 out. Indiana, 2354 out. Illinois, 3430 out. Iowa, 1098 out. Georgia, 2413. Now there's 25 going in, so a little bit less coming out, but that's still a good number. Florida's got 1,297 coming out. I mean, it's got 35 going in, so you're still going to get a bad rate coming out, but it's going to be a little bit easier to sift through those low boards. Now, I will say this. If you're in an area where there's 900 loads within a 100-mile radius, and you sit there and you say, I can't find a load, here's what you got to do. This is a surefire way to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. Go and sell your truck. You're putting way too many limitations on yourself. It's that simple. If you have 900 loads within a 100-mile radius of where you're at, and you can't find a load, you've got too many limitations. That's the harsh truth. So, when you have abundance of freight like this that we've been crying for the last 2 years, if you're not making money right now, it's because you're holding yourself back. It's that simple. And I'll demonstrate, right? So we go to load availability here on 123 load board, and let's look at van. Apply. Oh, what state has the highest here? 299 Missouri, 479, 580 in Ohio. So let's look at Columbus, Ohio. So create a search here. Columbus, Ohio. To anywhere. Let's do it for today. Just for today. Apply. Van. Search. Ton of freight. We can go to Chicago. We can go to Tulsa. We can go to Pennsylvania. We can go to Texas, Connecticut. Right? Here's a load paying $252 a mile to go to Farmers Branch, Texas, out of Columbus. $245 to go to Dallas. Oh, that load just disappeared. Columbus to Nashville, $1,300 for 380 miles. Here, let's look at this. Columbus to Selma, North Carolina. Let's look at this one. This one just got posted. Picks up at 1 p.m. today, right? Is that right? Yep. $1,500. 44. Oh man, it's 44 and 114. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to do that. Look at outbound numbers here. You do have $42 in tolls. 190 loads out of Selma, North Carolina going anywhere. See how fast these loads are going? It's ridiculous. I mean, you can literally, like, here's Lockburn, Ohio to North Little Rock. $246 a mile. They're at $1,750. Rate check's got it at $1,812. 22,000 pounds. Here's your load. Because as I demonstrated earlier, Arkansas has got good outbound numbers, right? So we come down here. Shows 78 out of North Little Rock. Let's take a look at these loads. There's 8 going directly right back to Columbus. Here's Norman, Arkansas to St. Peter's. Rate check's got it at 1326. So if you're not making money right now, it's either because your truck broke down or you're not trying. Because what I have found is a lot of drivers are like, man, I hope the rates turn around, man. I'm struggling here. Now the rates have turned around. We're getting better rates now. Have you changed your running radius? Have you changed your what you want to do? Here's West Memphis to Akron right here. Actually, here's West Memphis to Lockburn. 120-mile deadhead. Picks up at 11 a.m. today. And then you land in Ohio, Lockburn, Ohio, on a Friday. $1,500. So you're making almost 17 to go in and 15 to come out for easy 594 miles. That's a day's run. That's no big deal. 44,000 pounds, though, Steve. I don't know. Won't make any money doing this. And I'm trying not to be rash, but bad markets, it's easy to go, okay, this separates the weak from the strong, but the good markets do the same thing. The good markets will show you who the complacent ones are. Let's go back to load availability here. Let's take a look at Missouri outbound. Highest paying load today. Highest rate. 4,000 to go to Canada. We don't want that. 3,600. 386 a mile to go to Bowling Green, Florida. 219 to go to Massachusetts. 3,300. The rates going into Florida right now are insane. Easily getting $3 a mile. Now, if the weather, like if there's a huge snowstorm that comes through the Midwest, that those rates go down because everybody's trying to flee it. Of course, I've talked about these St. Charles runs. These are shopping cars, but $2 a mile to go out to Phoenix. Usually that lane's about, a little bit less than that. 274 to go to Houston. Or 294, sorry. Here's Joplin to Salisbury, North Carolina. Like here, you got this Kansas City to Loveland, Colorado. You can literally do this run in one day. It's paying $2,000. And then deadhead back, you're still, pick up something the next day. So if you pick it up on Monday, deliver it Tuesday, and then be back in Kansas City by Wednesday, you're still, and then pick up something, you're still at $1,000 a day. And half your miles are empty, right? If you just deadhead back. You can use that same strategy in Florida too. So right now, the water's warm. Take advantage of it. Utilize it. So as they further enforce the CDL and the non-domicile CDL, and they further enforce the the tariff, what direction that goes in, we're looking to finally get some relief. Now's not the time to be complacent. Now's not the time to look at a load board and says, I can't find the load if there's 900 loads within a 100-mile radius. Now's not the time to sit at home for 2 weeks because, well, I got my money in the first 2 weeks of the month. Stack the cash because what goes up must come down. It's that simple. So, all right, let's take a look at reefer here. Hot market map. Not bad. A lot of yellow states here. Let me go back to van here for a second. Colorado is green, which I think we dealt with that last week. I mean, we're still getting horrible rates coming out, but they're a little bit better than they normally are. Oh, here's a load paying $99,000 going to Nebraska. There's your load right there. Do that once. If you take this load, take a break for the rest of the month. But I imagine that's a typo because the lane normally pays about $900. Or they did that on purpose so they'd be at the top of the searches of guys like me that look for the highest rate. 219 to go to Florida. That's a little bit low, but that's out of Colorado. To get over $2 a mile to go to come out of Colorado, that's pretty good. What is this? Hay. Well, there's some work to that one. Hay will definitely make you get a trailer washout. So I look at these. Okay, Listo obviously has something going on with the shipper in Cortez, Colorado, shipping hay. Here's another one, Durango to Ocala. It's probably the same thing. Yep, hey. No broken glass on the floor. That makes sense. Close to $2 a mile going to Tampa. Windsor to Jacksonville. A little bit low on this. Empty glass bottles need one load bar. Driver will be working at the shipper. I'm seeing a lot of that. Truck was supposed to be here yesterday. Okay, well, I'm here today. Broker booked it today. A lot of that going on right now because these shippers are trying to hold out until they absolutely have to move something because the rates are pretty high for them right now. So that's why you're seeing a lot of cancellations. It's why you're seeing a lot of like, oh, we had the load, but we don't have it anymore. Because next thing you know, and then you also see a lot of team loads posted as well. So looks like DAT logged me out. So they don't want my business. So Denver loads have been paying decently lately. Decent for Denver, yeah. Sean says, I'm out to McAllen, Alabama. Sure, you know the receiver. They match our colors. Actually, I didn't run the South a whole lot. I think I did a couple of things in Alabama, Georgia. I was in and out of a lot, but for the most part, Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina. I didn't do any Florida while I was at Schneider. But anyways, let's see. Let's look at flatbed. And this is redundant because flatbed, it's always the same thing. Northwest, Midwest, but especially Southeast. Bing. I'm going to try something here. I meant to be prepared on this, but let me look at something here. I thought I emailed myself this. Yep, there it is. No, that's not it. No. Subject. Yep, there it is. Aha. All right. I want you guys I want to show you guys something here. So let's go here. I meant to do this Friday, I think, but I didn't get a chance to go live. No, I'm just going to do a screen share here. I practice what I preach on the running lanes, right? This was in 2020. These were my running lanes right here. Now, probably a lot more Oklahoma and Dallas than most drivers are comfortable with. But I knew the customers, and I was staying with 2020 was when we were dealing with the vid, right? And so I was trying to stay close, but then I expanded a little bit. But yeah, these were my running lanes. And if I put this on load availability, put this on van, you can almost put them side by side. With the green. Notice I didn't go to Colorado. Notice how I didn't go deep into Florida. This one load in Texas, I'm not sure what that was when I had to go to Abilene to pick up that trailer for Jeff. That was the only reason why I was down there. Notice I didn't do any northeast. But see, here's the thing. Here's the difference. I didn't sit there and say, well, I don't go northeast. Because if the rates crapped out in these areas or in this area, I would have gone northeast. I just would have been careful about it. This is called consistency. This is what I did almost the entire time I owned the truck. There was a few moments in 2019 where I did go out to Maryland and Pennsylvania. Never went west of 35 other than that trailer swap there in Abilene. That was my running area. So, anyways. 48065 if you want to try out the 123 low board for yourself. Don't take my word for it. There's a lot of great tools that I did not demonstrate today, but I've got to get moving. Thank you for everybody who's supported the channel thus far, and thank you for the thumbs up or the thumbs down, whichever floats your boat. If it makes you feel better to tell me I'm a piece of crap, then, well, there's not much I can do for you. But anyways, thanks for watching. Strength for today, over tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you on Friday. Peace.